28 Years Later is directed by Danny Boyle and is written by Alex Garland. A group of survivors of the rage virus live on a small island. When one of the group leaves the island on a mission into the mainland, it discovers secrets, wonders, and horrors that have mutated not only the infected, but other survivors. I never really got into the 28 Later movies. I never really heard about them at a young age, not until my adult years where I started learning more about these movies and how they involved fast zombies coming after you and how the original film was a classic. Still, I never really watched the original movie or its sequel, so I'm going into this film with a blind mind and just looking at it as its own movie. So what do I think about this movie as a newcomer to the franchise? Well, I thought it was really good. I thought it was a good horror film that had a solid second act and a solid story that had good characters, a story progression that felt mature and deep and thought-provoking enough for me to latch onto the themes of the film and what it's trying to tell. And all in all, I thought the movie was overall a really good zombie film with good horror elements and suspense. A lot of the zombie action were pretty cool, though if I were to have any criticism with the zombie action, is that there is this camera technique in where they cut frames whenever we cut to the zombies, and it's supposed to indicate this level of insanity going on in the action that is adrenaline pumping and nerve-wracking, that the camera is a bit all over the place, like the characters are trying to maintain themselves in the action in a clear mind, and kind of like giving the perspective of these zombies like being all over the place. And at times it can be a bit creepy, but at times it can be a bit too gimmicky and just don't gel well with the rest of the film. But the overall cinematography, the tone, the color correcting, and the overall look of the film, I really dug. I really dug the whole aesthetic. The real locations that they filmed out there were all beautiful, especially in the woods. It feels lived in, dirty, and these zombies in these situations just feel real creepy. The performances especially are great. Aaron Taylor Johnson was fantastic here as a father figure. Jodie Comer is great as his mother, who is suffering from a bit of dementia and has trouble remembering things. And Ralph Fiennes makes an appearance in the halfway point of the film, and he is once again great as always in his roles, and brings a level of authenticity, authority, and just brings a sense of otherworldly craziness in a way to this character that he brings to life, this doctor character that's supposed to help our main characters. But my favorite performance was from this kid named Rocco Haynes, who portrays our main protagonist trying to help his mother and family, and he is by far the standout performance. In a movie with Ralph Fiennes in it, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, he gives the most layered, nuanced, and heartbreaking performance I have seen all year. He is likable. He is a kid that is learning to grow up to become his own man, and in many ways defined his society's expectation of him and a man that they expect him to be versus who he wants and feels like he needs to be for his family, especially his mother. It is a really interesting character to follow, and with the brilliant performance from this kid, he's literally Oscar levels worthy here. I felt the heartbreak. I felt the emotions, what he's going through. He even holds himself pretty well with the action sequences because he's a kid that is learning how to survive out there. So he is constantly messing up and learning how to adapt. And not until later throughout the film that he learns to be able to hold himself up against all these zombies. So performance-wise, everyone is great. The directing is really solid. I think Danny Boyle was able to give a gritty sense to the film and have this movie feel very lived in with its sets, its world building. It's all very inventive, and I understood the logic behind everything, and just the way he's able to settle down and let our characters bask into their emotions and express themselves out. The camera lingers on very well for just the right amount of time for you to get those emotional moments you need out of the film, and by the movie's climax, I really did feel every emotion that it wanted me to feel. The way it builds up to these final few moments of the movie and how all these characters end off their character arcs here was just really satisfying yet heartbreaking. Now, my biggest issue with the film has to be the opening scene and the final scene itself. They connect together, yet somehow they are probably the worst parts of the film. While I think at first the opening scene was pretty good at setting up the entire world, how it pays off with the final scene was so disappointing, because the final scene of the film just was sequel bait and setting up for what the next movie is going to tell, and leaves this movie off in a very unsatisfying note. I felt like a few minutes earlier could have been a perfect ending, but they just kept going on with this new bit where it tries to connect to the beginning of the film, and I felt like it just felt tonally out of place, like we are in a completely different movie. It becomes way too silly. The cinematography becomes so janky. Just overall, that final scene really did kill the vibes and the overall opening of the film for me. Everything else was pretty solid and emotionally impactful, but that opening and ending scene were, in my opinion, the worst elements of the film that did not pay off well. Overall, 28 years later, for me who's a newcomer, is a solid horror film that I don't think reaches the high mark that I wanted it to, but all in all, it is a deep, thought-provoking film with a lot of emotion, a lot of good horror elements in cinematography, and brilliant performances all across the board. So for that, I am going to give 28 Years Later a B+. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys next time.